Microcaps are probably the best risk-reward adjusted way to make a lot of money in crypto. The idea of getting rich from crypto has always been cringe and cliché. You quickly realize how rare and risky it really is. That said, in a traditional sense, the crypto asset class still delivers the best returns of them all. Playing the cycles and majors would have given you a 4x on Bitcoin, 10x on Sol and 3x on ETH within the span of less than 2 years. Only Nvidia in TradFi would have allowed you to outperform. The lackluster ETH alone beats every major stock after that. This realization is what makes the average rational person go from crypto doubter to enthusiast if they walk down that path even just a little, but obviously most don't. As stellar as those gains may be, they won't get the average person wealthy. Even 10,000 invested at most yields 100,000 if played absolutely perfect. This is why I say the idea of getting rich from crypto is actually pretty sick, in this case downplaying a 90,000 P&L. It'd be one thing if investors went about it the way those returns deserve to be treated. But they don't. For many it's never enough. And so they shift further down the risk curve, and instead of majors play mid-tier altcoins. The idea is simple. Instead of getting a safe clean 5x from the lows on majors, they go for mid-caps that'll give them 10, 20, 30x's. But of course at the expense of more risk. But sometimes even that isn't enough depending on their initial size. The average investor probably starts off with a portfolio of a couple thousand. This is where the idea of microcaps come in. The bottom of the barrel type plays that once in a blue moon give 30 to 50 to 100x's. My advice is to not get involved in this game at all. It's nothing but gambling. You're much better off increasing your cash flow in real life and putting your effort into that. Fleshing out the size to where investing in something like a Bitcoin is enough to give you huge realized gains. But the reality is most won't. They'd rather gamble on the markets. And so if that is the case, instead of playing these cabal-infested meme coins, I want to at the very least set up guardrails for how to slightly increase your chances of doing something decent with microcaps. As always, make sure you're subscribed for more videos like this. With the amount of people who've capitulated now is as important a time as any to lock in. Also, if you're looking for good exchanges to trade on, then sign up to our exchange partners with links in description. CoinW is providing 0 trading fees for a month after signing up and also $100 free for just opening a trade. This is an exclusive offer separate from the 30,000 in deposit bonuses. And then we got JumpX, who have 0 spot trading fees, cash back on all trades, and the highest deposit bonuses in the entire industry. Both are exchanges that can be used anywhere across the world. They are non-KYC and you don't need a VPN. Canada, the UK, India, the USA. Use them from wherever. In terms of cars, if Bitcoin is the Ferrari, Solana is the Lambo, and ETH is the Prius, then microcaps would be a Dodge Viper. The Viper is one of the best, most hardcore, unique supercars ever, but was also death on 4 wheels. Very few could handle it, and its absurd 8.4-liter V10, and with the practically non-existent safety mechanisms, it's better to stay away from it. Microcaps are the same way. Even if you catch the bottom preceding a massive microcap pump, the odds of banking sufficient profits before it falls back to 0 are low. But at the same time, if you can master the microcap game, that I believe is a skill even the most experienced struggle with. Microcaps are coins with less than a $100 million market cap. Now, traditionally most crypto started off at that valuation, and there's basically a severe mispricing between fundamentals and tech versus the price. If you can dig through the trenches and find those gems, you could end up being early to some of the biggest winners we've had in this space. Assets like BNB, Solana, Chainlink, even ETH started off as small caps that eventually became behemoths. But it's not even these major winners that you necessarily have to pick. There's countless projects out there that may have started at 30 million before capping out at, let's say, 500 million. That's a 16x on something that didn't even become a mid-cap. The 2021 run is often called the adoption or sometimes layer 1 cycle, but in a way it was also the microcap cycle with the sheer amount of investment opportunities that played out. I personally don't think microcaps will do as well as last cycle, partly because even if there are new releases that go on to become majors, a lot of them didn't release at these sub 100 million market cap levels. In fact, the opposite, often being in the billions, tying back to that huge low float high FDV issue this cycle. But but I still feel if you're someone who may not have the most capital looking to get the biggest bang for their buck, then mastering this microcap game and literally ignoring everything else could be the way to go. Instead of providing examples from last cycle, we've already had a pretty big Bitcoin run from 16 to 70,000 in this one. So let me show you some examples of microcap movements that played out to see what characteristics they have in preparation for the future wave up. We'll take a look at the crypto gaming niche, as I find that a lot of gaming projects are microcaps, and for some reason their understanding is probably the easiest of the microcap space. It's a lot easier to explain a $20 million game or studio than a $20 million DeFi project. For Bitcoin, the bottom before the leg up to over 70,000 was formed on the week of September 11th last year. It was pretty much a straight 200% shot up to 74,000 on March 11th, 2024, minus this 9-week consolidation throughout December and January. Now if we're talking about gaming, let's see how gaming majors performed during that same timeline. With IMX here, its bottom was also formed on September 11th, and it also topped March 11th like Bitcoin. As you can see, there's no real lag period between the two, meaning if Bitcoin started running, there's no real window to go down to major altcoins and ride them, as they too would have likely made their move. With microcaps, however, there is a lag period, and that too quite the substantial one. So not only do microcaps serve the advantage of giving outsized gains, but also give the edge of getting exposure into the markets if you've not already sufficiently done by the time Bitcoin makes its move. Sidus Heroes is a gaming microcap project that also serves as a launch pad. If we look at the Sidus chart, as you can see from September 11th to October 23rd, the project was pretty much a no-show, where at the same time Bitcoin and its category leader IMX had already gotten off their marks. And on March 11th, the dates when Bitcoin and IMX topped, Sidus was prepping for a 200% move up where it topped on the week of April 1st, almost a month later. So with microcaps, we start later, finish later, and versus the 200% overall gain of Bitcoin and 700% overall gain of IMX, Sidus Heroes performed a 20x. And of course, like with almost all microcaps, the project has no real value, and so since then it's given back all its returns, pretty much going back to where it started. But that's okay, because for the most part, we're not trying to pick out the next winner, instead just trying to bite off as much of this 20x as you can. There's countless examples of this with a little bit of variance in each, like with Moon Tropica topping the same time as Bitcoin, but also starting its pump in December, almost 3 months after BTC, completing a 150x. Game starting its pump October 30th, but ending a lot earlier in late November after a 20x. This is the case for every sector, so the first thing I'd do is preferably pick one, maybe two, and really zero in on it. Make that sector your everything. It may sound like a burden, but it's not. Let's say you pick gaming. Then go on the gaming tab on CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko, and go through each and every single project. It's important you review every project in depth, even if one seems bad, as it allows you to compare relative market caps and fundamentals in teams and see those mispricings early. For example, Gala Games sits at a 600 million market cap, got to an all-time high market cap of 5 billion, and it's not like we're looking for projects to flip Gala Games per se, but after doing that research, you'll notice something like a Myria is very similar, also operating as a gaming studio with nodes and such, and yet sitting at 6 times less the FDV. And if I go over to the Myria chart, it seems like it's setting up for an accumulation range, because that's the other thing about these microcaps, they don't trend, they only go through long accumulation and hard distribution. Myria this last run did exactly that, going through a 150-day accumulation, starting its run late October, a month and a half after Bitcoin, and completing a 10x by mid-December. So now with Myria, what you want to see is a nice long range, which it's already been in for a while, and in the future, if Bitcoin does make that big leg up and everything goes nuclear, I'll come back to this chart. Myria would have barely moved, and then I'll decide to go into it. But remember, the risk is microcaps are liquidity and sector dependent, so if liquidity is thin and the gaming sector is not that hot this next run, then Myria may not be worth it. And I'm just using Myria as an example, but apply everything I've said to any project in any niche, it's the same exact thing: accumulation, distribution, the sector, and liquidity. Examples of microcaps I'm paying attention to in the AI niche are OXO. Netmind is also very cool. It's a bit similar to bittensor, where the NMT token is used as the incentive to contribute AI models and computing resources. The team is also quite killer, Kaizo the founder also did so with Protego Labs, who've been around since 2017 focusing on AGI among other things. So this is where the whole small cap but good fundamentals thing comes in. On the chart, if it can just grind out for a while, it'll be a project to keep an eye on. In fact, I've been involved with netmind since the early days and have been accumulating in this range already. 01 Labs is also an AI play that's nothing but dead in the water right now, also one I'll be looking to potentially get into during that next Bitcoin markup. With gaming, I'll be paying attention to seedify fund, especially if it can flesh out a range here something similar to this 20-week one before it popped up for a 10x. Mavia is another one setting up for a picture-perfect range and blast off once the market and gaming sector gets hot. Karrat I'm also extremely interested in. Once it stops bleeding in ranges, I'll be looking to play this one. And just some other microcaps overall are spacemesh as a layer 1, crowned by Third Games. Kujira, I mean, this one is just sad, literally probably one of the only projects to survive Terra Luna. A fantastic job reimaging and building, and the recent liquidation just took them out. But it's undergoing that infamous sideways movements, so this one I'll be checking out in the bull run. But there you have it, that's the Microcap playbook and a few examples on my part. Tremendous risk but also upside. If you understand both, then go forward at your own discretion. My recommendation is don't play this game at all. But if you do, instead of blindly bidding randomly, at least there's somewhat of a structure now at place for you. And given the recent state of the markets, and how sentiment is as worse as it's been, this knowledge is what separates the winners versus those who come in late. Make sure you're subscribed if you somehow aren't already. Message me on Instagram for any community questions, I'll get back to you there. Sign up to those exchanges below. And take care until next time.